Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. Before we dive in, I'd love to give a shout out to our sponsor, Samantha Selby, the astrological energy healer. Before we dive in, I'd love to give a shout out to our sponsor, Leslie Martin. Leslie Martin Coaching helps high achievers who want more to stop letting fear, doubt, and insecurity hold them back from creating a more joyful, authentic, and fulfilling version of their life. You can learn more about Leslie and her work at lesliemartincoaching.com, and we'll pop her link in the show notes for you. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm so excited to be welcoming Jenna Holloway here onto our show. We're going to be talking about unlocking the subconscious, one of my favorite things to talk about, so that you can live more abundantly in all areas of your life. Now, just to kind of give you a bit of what's what about Jenna. Jenna is a multi-award winning hypnotherapist and intuitive mindset coach for ambitious and successful individuals. And she helps with subconscious reprogramming, intuitive mentorship to help her clients break free from self-sabotage. Anybody? Overworking, overwhelm, so that they can create space and freedom and have more joy in life and their career. It's so lovely to have you here, Jenna. Huge welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to dive in. What we're going to talk about.
Me too. And it's what I always love to, hear about, because I'm just nosy and like to find out about these things, is, how did you start your business? What made you start your business? If we start there, that's always a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I had no idea that this was coming for me. I left uni and went straight into teaching, and I was a proper keen bean teacher. I was French and Spanish teacher and poured my heart and soul into it, loved it, thought I was going to be a teacher for life, basically. And then my husband and I started to struggle to have kids, and we ended up on a really long, hard journey of infertility. And we were really fortunate. We were blessed in the end with twin girls, which was amazing. But it was like I just stepped foot into the school after maternity leave, and I just felt like all the things that I speak on now, I just didn't have the language. I had no idea about alignment and, all of those things back then, but I could just feel that it was wrong, and I could feel that there was something else for me. And after going through what I went through, I just had this calling to help people on a deeper level. And it all worked out, the pieces of the puzzle just worked out perfectly, in the sense that I was drawn to a conversation which brought me to the world of hypnotherapy. And I trained in hypnotherapy, left teaching, and here we are almost 2 years later. Well, 2 years since I qualified. And yeah, it's just been the most incredible journey. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what brought me to it.
That's a long journey. And very emotional, like you were saying, in terms of all those things that have come up for you with fertility and being able, then having to go back and work in a school and all the stuff. I'm so happy that you've got your twins. That's amazing. So how old are your twins now?
So they're just coming up 4.5.
Oh, what a gorgeous age.
Yeah.
Gorgeous age. Hands full time.
Yeah, it's just so amazing to have the freedom to just be around for them. That's my why, basically. Like, I do it do my business to help others, but also have the freedom to be the mum that I want to be. And so, you know, I'm so grateful to have a business that means that I can be there as much as I can, which is amazing.
It's such a blessing. Yeah, I worked flat out in my son's early years, which I missed out on a lot because I was working. And I remember my youngest son, Moses, they're now 25 and 22, but Moses, it must have been about 2 at nursery school, between 1 and 2 at nursery school. And me saying to him at the end of the day, you know, after a long day at work, coming home, "I love you, darling." And him saying, "I love Kaylee," which was his nursery school teacher.
Oh.
I was like, So I hear you on that. It's such a gift to be able to do that. And I know many of our listeners, you know, this is why we have personal reasons, don't we, why we start our businesses and have aspirations and desires. And everybody wants to claim more of life. I think that you must see that with your clients as well. We all have this inner desire to just live our best lives. And then stuff gets in the way. And often it's our subconscious that is, you know, creating these things that like you were talking about in what we touched on in the intro to you about, you know, self-sabotage, overworking, overwhelm. What's the biggest thing that you see that is the sort of stickler, if you like, you know, for people getting held back?
It's that success has to be a struggle, because we're conditioned to work hard. You know, we hear it over and over again growing up in school. If you want to be successful, if you want to get the good grades, you have to work hard. So it's drummed into us at every level. And then the societal conditioning as well of, like, you know, the industrial age. You have to work your fingers in the bone to survive, let alone thrive. And so that's sort of programmed into us. We don't come to this earth thinking, experiencing, feeling that. It's programmed in. And so that's our reality that we create, because it's the subconscious programming. And then the subconscious looks for the evidence of what we believe to be true. So if subconsciously we believe that success has to be a struggle and a hard slog, then of course, like what that's going to look like in real life is working very long hours and overcomplicating things and just making it so much harder than it needs to be.
Do you know what? That's something that you said there around the overcomplicating things. I think that's a really sneaky way that we can work harder. Yeah. If we don't catch it, and if you're not aware of or haven't got the experience of setting up systems and things like that, you know, something can look very logical as to how you're doing it, particularly when you're newer in business. And all the people that have grown their businesses a bit longer are going to be probably nodding their heads going, yeah, we've set up some complicated things along the way. It just makes so much sense, doesn't it? It's like what's running it behind the thing is that you've got to work hard for it to feel valuable and to be worthy of receiving it.
Yeah. And I, like, it is so sneaky. I did some inner work from a place of like, I literally invested in myself to go through my mentor, the one who trained me, to go through that program. And my reason for doing it, so I thought, you know, I was led maybe for divine timing and divinely, it was all divinely orchestrated, but I thought I was doing it to improve my client experience. You know, I thought if I went through this as a client, like, I'd know exactly how I'd want to feel as a client so I could improve it. Literally, I was blindsided because I didn't think I needed therapy at all. You know, I'm successful, confident, high achiever my whole life. And then I did it, and I came across this repressed trauma, and the limiting belief that I had, that I didn't know I had, was I wasn't worthy, or I believed I wasn't worthy unless I was achieving. So if somebody had said to me, "You don't think you're good enough, Jenna," I would have been like, absolutely not. I think I'm good enough. Like, I'm absolutely fine in who I am. I don't need therapy. But it was subconscious, and it was so nuanced that, yeah, you think you're worthy, Jenna, but you only think you're worthy when you're working hard and when you're achieving. And that programming has created my external reality over and over again in my life, where I'm a serial high achiever, because what was driving it was this inner feeling of not being good enough, not feeling worthy unless I was achieving. And so then I did this work from a place of wanting to improve my client experience, but actually it was a game changer for me, because out the other side, I still work hard, but I do it from a place of always feeling good enough, always feeling worthy, simply because I'm a human and I'm living and I'm breathing. There is no condition to that. So it doesn't matter whether I'm not productive one day, I still feel good enough, and I'm able to follow my energy. And I never ever do things from that place of push, that feeling like you have to work. I don't feel that anymore. And that's because of that reprogramming that I had, where you're always worthy, and also success gets to be easeful, not easy, easeful, ease and flow. So yeah, game changer.
So important. And I just love how you approach that with, I'm going to go in to make my experience for my clients better. Oh, this is very helpful.
Yeah, literally, like, oh my goodness. And if I didn't know, I thought I was very self-aware and all of the things, but it's just like, it's subconscious, isn't it? Like, by definition, you don't know what's down there. It's like doing this work. It's like you're turning a light on and you're like, oh, okay, let's do this work now.
It's so key. I talk about this a lot with my clients. We use muscle testing to help, find out what's going on, because as I always say to people, they'll be like, oh, I've sorted that one belief. I'm good now. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
We have 75,000 thoughts, whatever it is. I don't know who decided to count that, but we have a lot of thoughts that we know about, and then we have all the things that we don't know about that our body is holding, that are running the show, unless we start to be in that you talked about self-awareness, being self-aware and kind of really starting to pay attention, going, isn't that interesting that I've just behaved like that? It's going on.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's so fascinating, isn't it? I love it so much. It's so good to have a conversation with somebody who just gets it. And yeah, it's brilliant.
One of the things, I'd love to hear your take on this as well. One of the things that often my clients will say to me when they start doing this work and they've really started to kind of understand and to see some shifts and to be able to recognize where their beliefs are running the show and how they can be empowered to change those, is that their self-trust improves. What's your take on that in terms of, because trust is such a big thing, and particularly for entrepreneurs in business, we really do have to trust ourselves. So, with how you're working with clients, how do you see trust and the impact of whether they don't trust themselves or they do trust themselves in their life?
It's so important, and I think a lot of it is linked to intuition as well, because it's our intuition that basically, I'm sure you've said this as well, like everything, we all know the answers, everything comes from within. So when we trust ourselves to listen and tune in and then follow those intuitive nudges, that's when the magic happens. But when we don't trust ourselves, that gets drowned out, just passes on by, and we end up doing things in a misaligned way, or doing things in a way that takes so much time, so much longer, or is so much harder than it needs to be, because it's the ego and it's the logic that is trying to control things, when we can just set that aside and tune in. A lot of people hear their intuition but don't have the safety and the trust to follow it because it's not logical. And actually doing this work to find that safety from within, so that you can trust that intuition, even if it is so left field, to just do it and watch the magic that happens. And when you start to do it as well, and you see the benefit of doing it, you don't know what's going on. You can't ever see the big picture. You just take the next step and you just trust. And then you watch the magic unfolding. You're like, oh, okay, I like this now. I'm going to follow my intuition more. And to me now, that's the number one strategy in my business. I just follow my intuition. And it's really important as well in order to be able to follow your intuition, you have to do the work on the limiting beliefs, because without doing that work, the limiting beliefs will hold you back, because you will not feel safe to follow your intuition, because your subconscious is always just wanting to keep you safe. It doesn't care about your big dreams and your vision. It doesn't care at all. So it's really important to do that work so that it feels safe to follow your intuition.
So key. One of the things as you were sharing that, I was thinking, it reminded me of an insight that I had through working with our clients, where people could get really frustrated with their subconscious. Like, the subconscious is wrong. And I would say, actually, no, your subconscious is trying to be your friend. Your subconscious is your friend. We don't want to be creating this kind of rejection against the subconscious, if that makes sense. But it's kind of being able to go, okay, it's all right, subconscious, I've got you. We're going on this journey together, and you're going to be safe, so the subconscious feels safe. It's so key. The other thing that you, as you were sharing, was around the intuition. I think there's so much programming that people get from parents that dampens people's intuition. You know, even as children, you know, if you had an imaginary friend, oh, you've got a wild imagination, you know, or whatever it might be. There's so many things that come on to us that can dampen that, or I've heard so many people say they sort of switched it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're taught growing up not to trust ourselves, not to trust our bodily cues, and I'm hoping it's different now, because, you know, we don't say things like finish up what's on your plate. Hopefully a lot of parents listening to this trust their child to trust their own bodily cues, because when we don't force a child to feel it, or like when a child falls over and hurts themselves, not to say, oh, you're okay, but actually, no, to validate how they feel. That's important, because you're fostering that self-trust. It's not that you have to learn to trust yourself. You come to this earth trusting yourself. You have all of the things. And then it's the things that we are told that forms the limiting belief that pulls away that level of self-trust, to the point where we now, as adults, you know, having grown up with, and also like the conditioning that's come from, you know, post-war, where food was scarce, and of course you were told to eat everything on your plate because you literally do not know where your next meal's coming from. It all makes sense, and we're all doing the best with the resources that we have, but bringing our attention to it and questioning what we're doing matters so much, because there's so much healing to be had simply when you become aware. Like, just moving something from the unconscious to the conscious is just like turning a light on, and that in itself can be a game changer.
It's so true, so true. I love that comparison of, you just turn the light on, because you can't go back once the light's on. You're like, oh, okay. And even if the sort of pattern appears, it's not going to have that energetic charge that it had before, because you're aware and you can stop it. Exactly. And you can choose. You can choose to go left instead of going right all the time, which you've always done, because you haven't even thought about it. It's just incredible, isn't it? So how do you work with your clients? Tell us a little bit more about how you work with your clients.
Yeah, okay. So I trained as a solution-focused hypnotherapist, and everything. So now my framework is called the Total Freedom Framework, and it involves embodiment coaching, because you can have the subconscious reprogramming, but if you're not embodying that new identity, you're basically dampening the effect of the subconscious reprogramming, because there's this conflict between old identity, new identity. You want to integrate that. So I support people with coaching to integrate that. Coach on alignment too. And although I do work with business owners, I'm really passionate about saying that I work with the person as a whole, because your business is going to thrive when you thrive, and you cannot compartmentalize energy. So there's no point sorting out your boundaries and clearing up all the energy leaks inside your business if you're a people pleaser with your family, for example. So, I really coach and support my clients as a whole, and then the business will thrive. Subconscious reprogramming, I'm very intuitive. So my whole framework, I'm just about to come up to 2 years qualifying, but everything that I do has evolved so much from when I qualified to just have this unique framework and methodology that's just like I've channeled through. And yeah, just feels so amazing to support people in this way that's just evolved in its own way. It's like it's got a life of its own, and it just feels magical. So subconscious reprogramming is at the root of it, but there's all sorts of stuff around energetics and alignment and intuition and manifestation, all the things. Like when I first joined, I remember, like, I have a podcast as well. Not when I first joined, when I first started the podcast, that's what I wanted to say. When I first started the podcast, it was all very neuroscience based and talking about the positive impact of hypnotherapy and getting out of survival mode and raising awareness on what that looks like and all the things. And I remember on one episode, because to that point, from my infertility, sorry, I'm all over the place here. When I was on my infertility journey, I was in a really dark place to start with, and that really changed me on so many levels. And I became very spiritual through that journey. And so then I trained in the hypnotherapy, and then I started this podcast. And on the podcast, it was all very sort of neuroscience-y and very, very black and white, things like that. Didn't really talk about energy or manifestation. But I found myself talking about it in client sessions where I could just feel that they were open to it. And that was what really lit me up. And then one day on the podcast, I didn't script or it wasn't, really strategic about my podcast. I just spoke what was on my heart, and one day I just found myself talking about manifestation, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, and just carried on. And then the next episode I addressed it, and I was like, do you know what, I'm so glad that came out, because that is who I am, and I'm going to embrace that now. And since then it's evolved massively. Like you can't separate it now. Like energy, I talk about it just as much as, if not more, and so everything has evolved beautifully, because I haven't allowed limiting beliefs of, people were going to think that's a bit woo-woo, or any, rubbish stories like that. I just allow myself to be fully expressed as who I am. And then I know that my people who resonate with the things that I share will be drawn to me. And I will also repel people who think that that's a bit too woo or whatever. And that's totally fine by me. Different strokes for different folks.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love how that evolved. I think it really does. And this is like a little permission slip for all practitioners out there to evolve your practice, because that's exactly how we as a collective evolve and grow. We all get better and better together as we take our learnings, make it our own, and then to be able to, work intuitively with our clients. I teach and certify clients in our Helix Method, energy psychology methodology. And we've got all these amazing protocols that I've developed through the work that I've done. And the one thing that I always say, which I know you'll really like, is when they say, which one do I do? I'm like, well, this is the one I'd recommend, but follow your intuition, because your intuition is always right. And I'm not in the room with you, So, follow your intuition. Your intuition is going to tell you, we have to listen to it, don't we? It's just so incredible. So, gosh, you probably touched on this already, but I'd love to kind of wrap up with, what are the top 3 tips that you would share with, we talk about entrepreneurs in business, but with the entrepreneurs in business who are whole people, as you rightly share.
Such a good question. I would say put yourself before your business, because when you are in a good place, emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically, your business is going to thrive, because we get more of what we are, not what we want. And it's not the actions that you take that matter, it's the energy underneath those actions. So if you're working a lot, but you're doing it from a place of, I love my work, I feel so inspired today, I'm going to work, and I'm going to work hard, that's wonderful. But if you're working and you're working through break times, and you're not getting outside, and the energy underneath that is, I have to do this because my business isn't safe or whatever, that's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the longevity of your business. And in order to flip that around and change things, you have to learn to put yourself first. So I would say, even if I'm speaking to business owners, it doesn't matter whether I'm speaking to business owners or not, the guidance is always the same. The relationship that you have with yourself is the most important one. So prioritize that. really get on board with being your biggest cheerleader, because your brain is always listening to everything you think and everything you say. And words are powerful, thoughts are powerful. So put this growth work first, make it a priority for you, even if you're very early on in your business, because your capacity to receive abundance, whether that's abundance of joy or financial abundance, your capacity to experience abundance is in direct relation to the healing that you've done. So even if you're a therapist and you're helping everybody else and you're doing amazing things, but if you're feeling like you're on the path to burnout, there's something wrong there. You have to put your own healing first as well. You have to do your own healing. Not because your business is going to prosper, but because your human experience is going to be so different. You're going to enjoy your life so much more. You're going to get so much more out of your relationships. And it's just going to be a game changer. So that will be my top tip. Really prioritize the relationship that you have with yourself and your own growth.
That's huge, absolutely huge. I was making notes so we can make sure that they're highlighted in the show notes for everybody. And I know you mentioned that you've got a masterclass that people can download. Tell everybody a little bit about, how they can stay in your world, come and find you, and your free masterclass.
Yeah, sure. So my masterclass is for business owners who feel that they are doing all the right things. They've got the strategy in place. They're established in their work, but they feel like they are up against an invisible wall. Maybe they've hit an income plateau, or they're just not experiencing the growth that they want to experience in their business. My training is called Blind Spots, and it shares basically my methodology and how I work with my clients to create that success with ease. So it doesn't feel like you are sacrificing your own mental well-being for the sake of your business. And you get to actually create far more growth and success by implementing the things that I share on the training. So you can find that training either on my website, which is www.jennaholloway.com, or via my Instagram, which is @IamJennaHolloway. And I would also love to invite you, Louisa, over onto my podcast too. My podcast is called Bigger Than You, and we talk about subconscious mindset, energetics, and how to get the best from your business and your life from a place of doing all the things that I've shared with you today. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, come on over. I'm going to invite Louisa over very soon, and I can't wait to ask you questions, Louisa, if you'd love to come on.
I would absolutely love to come on. I feel like I could chat to you for all day about this.
Exactly.
It's my favorite thing to talk about. So I'd be honored to come over to your podcast. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and your journey, and having just a fabulous conversation with me today. And looking forward to coming onto your podcast. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me here today.
So fabulous. Alrighty, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We would love to hear your thoughts, so do come and join us in the Money Kinesiology for 6 and 7 Figure CEOs on Facebook. Share your thoughts. Let's carry on the conversation there. Until our next episode, sending you all lots and lots of love. Namaste. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.